Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to the Ted Lasso Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and I'm thrilled to be here with y'all today. Now, folks, if you're like me, you can't get enough of Ted and the gang over at AFC Richmond, but that is why I am here, to dive deep into every episode of this wonderful show and share my thoughts and insights with all of you lovely folks out there. We're going to laugh, we're going to cry, and we're going to have a heck of a good time doing it. So grab your biscuits, settle in, and let's get started, shall we, with this episode, Season 3, Episode 9. I'm going to try this. Season 3, Episode 9, Locker Room Aux Folles. Folles? I don't know. I have no idea. There was a time in my life as a child where I knew French. But I don't know. That's just gone. You don't do it, it's gone. I don't know. I don't even know. Like, even how to pronounce things in French is so weird. So I just butchered the title of this episode, but it came out May 10th of this year, 2023, directed by Erica Dunton. Dunton? Is that right? Dunton. In this episode, Rebecca gives Roy a kick in the pants, inspiring him to stop being so complacent with his place in life and work. We finally get the resolution we've been waiting for with Colin and Isaac. Obviously, that came up last episode, but Colin in general, we get some resolution to him and his plot line, the storyline that's been woven through this season. The team is still on a win streak, still continuing to win. My predictions with Nate still on track, but it's happening a little bit different in a different way that I expected. But I'm still on track for the end result to be hopefully realized at the end of this season. But we'll see. Nate has to make a choice in this episode. To stay either true to himself or to follow the dark side. Which Nate will prevail? Good Nate, normal Nate, real Nate, or evil Nate? And this episode definitely made me laugh many times. It also, as well, got me choked up many times. As, like, every episode does, there is a moment in which I am recapping these episodes, and I will tell you, I will highlight the moment at which this show got me choked up. This was also a very funny episode. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I also came away with some new predictions in regards to the future of the show. Alternate potential predictions. So we'll see, based on the events of this episode. Which this episode starts with the team practicing. Happy music's playing, like big band type music playing while they're passing the ball, doing their practice. You got Roy on the sidelines. He admits that he didn't have faith in changing everything up mid-season, but now he loves it. Everyone is having fun, including the fans who are in the stands during practice. So this thing that Ted opened up to the fans has kind of caught on, and they're all there watching. At the half, right, they're playing a little scrimmage, a little fake game. At the half, Colin goes to give Isaac a compliment for a shot that he made, and Isaac just walks by, giving him kind of a shitty look. So as we saw in the last episode, Isaac, when the team was ordered to delete all of the nude photos that they've been sent, that they are holding on to because of the leak that happened with Keeley, and Isaac saw Colin kind of just leave, knowing his opinion on that topic. Isaac found out Colin's secret, that he's gay. And we're seeing kind of how Isaac is reacting. It's hard to gauge. He's upset. Don't know why he's upset. I had some theories, especially based on the show, knowing the show, kind of the way in which this show would probably handle it, which we will get resolution in this episode. Colin makes a joke about a player comparing themselves to Danny's dirty sock, and everybody laughs except for Isaac. And he just kind of gives him another shitty look while they're in the locker room and just walks away again. Colin goes out to invite Isaac to get some beer after practice, right? Have a chat. And Isaac says no. Very angry. So it's hard to tell. Like, is he, like, the two ways this show could take it. It could be Isaac, homophobic. He's angry at the fact that he has a gay player, a gay teammate, right? That is one way this show could take it. The other way, which I felt was more like this show, I can't imagine this show all of a sudden introducing one of their most loved characters. I mean, they had enough problems turning Nate evil. So for Isaac to be homophobic, probably unlikely. The other option is that Isaac is upset that Colin didn't confide in him, didn't trust him to tell him the truth. That is the other option. But still, at this point, we don't know. It's just angry. And he plays it well, where it could be either thing. And then Colin, after inviting Isaac and he says no, Colin, standing in the hallway just outside of the locker room, gets a whiff of something, and it turns out it's Danny. And because Colin notices, Danny realized that he put on the dirty socks. Very funny. Then you go to Rebecca and Keely. Rebecca asking if Keely's heard anything from Jack. Keely responds by saying, like, how you're never supposed to send a second text after an unanswered text, which is a good rule. Definitely a rule that I've never adhered to in text messaging. If I don't hear from somebody, get a reply from somebody, especially somebody that, like the situation with Keely and Jack, I might send a 2 or 3, and depending if I'm drinking or what my mental health is like, I might send a lot. I might be Keely as she was and shows Rebecca her phone of like just pages of pages, some short text, some paragraphs of text. Like what Keely's phone looks like when she shows Rebecca is what my phone sometimes looks like when somebody doesn't respond. I'll just have a very long one-sided conversation, and then needless to say, I'm single, and things are going great. But anyway, Keely shows her all the unanswered text. Ted comes in with Rebecca's daily biscuits, and they fill him in on the whole Jack ghosting Keely situation. So apparently there was a break at first, according to Ted. So it's like maybe some time has lapsed. Obviously, the team's on a winning streak now. So after the last episode with Jack and Keely, like it's just kind of clear that they're done, right? They're on a break, but Jack's not responding to her. So, the show didn't go into the nitty-gritty of their breakup. But Ted makes some biscuits for Keely, but instead puts some money inside because, like, last minute, because Ted's a very thoughtful person. He asks Rebecca if it's okay if he misses the press conference. He's got a parent-teacher conference that he needs to zoom in for. Keely recommends that Roy take his place. And Ted's cool, goes to do his parent-teacher thing. Rebecca and Keely leave Rebecca's office, run into Roy in the hallway, and ask him if he'll fill in for Ted. Rebecca does. And at first he responds, fuck no, because it's Roy, and he's going to say no to everything and anything he doesn't want to do. Then Rebecca just kind of doesn't say anything, just gives him a cold stare, right? Like that was the wrong answer, Roy. Why don't you try again? And then he's like, well, why can't Ted do it? And just still the stares like, nope, wrong answer again, Roy. Try again. And he's like, I'd love to do it, right? Very painful. Like, okay, I guess this is what you want to hear. And then, says fuck afterwards, and she hears him. Cut to Jade surprising Nate with lunch at work, And when she shows up, she uses like a fake voice and says his name incorrectly, and him kind of focused on his work, not knowing it's her, because the voice she used goes to correct, kind of like Snippy, goes to correct her, and then while in the middle of correct, is like, oh, it's you, right? Showing, really breaking down, she's really breaking down this evil Nate. Anytime she's around, he can't be, he's less and less evil Nate. She was able to get some time off from the restaurant as long as she brings home some swag from West Ham. So Nate, all giddy, he's like, ooh, yeah, I'll get you some stuff to give to your manager. Gives her all kinds of stuff. And then Rupert shows up, right? And it's like the two people that have the most control over what type of Nate we're seeing, right? Evil Nate is somebody who is only around because of Rupert, and only around when Rupert is around, and otherwise it's normal Nate. And when Nate's around Jade, he's like happy normal Nate, like giddy, happy Nate. Still awkward as normal Nate is, but you know. So it's a little evil Nate versus showdown almost in his head, I'm sure. But he doesn't go into evil Nate at all. Even when Rupert shows up, he's still very happy, right? In a very adorable way, introducing Rupert to his girlfriend Jade, right? And of course, Rupert instantly, like, kind of not overtly flirting, but mildly flirting with her, right? Accurately guessing she's from, like, where she's from in Poland, right? Based on her accent. Rupert tries to tell her kind of in a way that she's out of Nate's league. And she's just stone-faced as Jade can be, as she was in so much of this show, up until she went and sat down with Nate when his date left him at the restaurant, right? Then we saw the cracks in Jade's facade, this stone-faced facade of Jade. And we're seeing that just zero reaction to Rupert at all, which I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, she's not. And I'm sure that's why she was stone-faced with Nate, because she doesn't put up with fake bullshit. She doesn't put up with that shit. Rupert tells Nate, right, not to screw it up with this one. Nate's very giddy, says he won't, like a little child talking to his dad, right? And then as soon as Rupert leaves, Jade mentions that, like, he seems like a very wealthy guy, but also nice, like. And Nate says that he owes him a lot, which is complete and utter bullshit. Aside from, yeah, he gave him a job, but the only reason he got that job was because Ted believed in him. Ted gave him the opportunity at Richmond. Which Nate knows that, but, you know, I think he's still, like, deluded himself that Rupert is for some reason, the more important person. Right? Rupert just poached him. Ted did all the work, I would say. Ted gave him the opportunity. It's not like Rupert went to Richmond and asked their kit man to coach the team. He only did it after he saw Nate win, and also to hurt his ex-wife as well by poaching one of their coaches. That's clearly the more knowledgeable coach of the group, as we saw at the beginning of the season. Cut to Higgins goes to Rebecca in her office to find out why Ted isn't at the presser. Right, of course, Roy was supposed to be doing it. Cut to Beard yelling at the reporter. Beard filled in, yelling at the reporters for misquoting him. It's like, oh boy, what's Beard? What is he done? He's off the handles. Come to find out that the quote that he's being misquoted was about who's the better guitarist. The argument being between Joe Walsh from the Eagles, who he considers to be a poet, versus Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, who Coach Beard considers to be a court stenographer on Adderall, which I thought was hilarious. The reporter says Page could beat Paige could beat him with one string, and Beard fires back, beat him? It's not a competition, man. It's art. Fucking Neanderthal. And everybody fucking goes crazy. Rebecca rushes to the front to kind of take over as clearly Beard is flying off the handles. And her first question is, who's the best classic guitarist of all time, right? And you see her kind of like, She looked kind of nervous anyway going up front. She's never up in front of the cameras, obviously, knowing how the press has treated her after her breakup with Rupert and all that stuff. And in my opinion, which I'm sure plenty of people would be mad at me for, but my opinion, my favorite guitarist from a band that I'm sure would be considered classic rock in today's era, from they started in the 80s, John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers. I think he is he's because his art, you fucking Neanderthals. That's why John Frusciante, because he's an artist with a guitar, in my opinion. Cut to her leaving the press conference, Higgins mocking the answer that she gave, which was the guy from Cream, a.k.a. Eric Clapton, which is also a great guitarist. Definitely an older generation. Definitely more considered classic rock than the Chili Peppers, but I still, Frusciante is my favorite guitarist. And she's pissed that Roy obviously missed the press conference, said he would, didn't hold up to his responsibilities, and Higgins is pumped as Rebecca's going to go lay down some whoop ass on Roy, as she just kind of stomps away to give Roy a taste of her medicine. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to talk about, are you looking to add some unique and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe? Look no further than the Many Faces series by Ray Taylor. That's me. These abstract paintings on paper explore the endless possibilities of the human face, capturing unique expressions of emotion, mood, tone, and energy in just a few minimal features. Now you can bring these stunning and thought-provoking pieces into your own space with high-quality prints and t-shirts, featuring designs from the Many Faces series. Or take home a one-of-a-kind original piece for your collection. Don't miss out on this opportunity to add some original and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe. Head on over to InspiredDisorder.com to browse and purchase original artworks, prints, and t-shirts from the Many Faces series today. And now, back to the show. And then you see Roy in the training room, in the weight room with all of the team, telling everybody they need to lift more, right? You guys need to lift until you're dead. And then Rebecca comes in, throws the door open, and just yells at Roy, right? Demanding that he gets his hairy ass into her office now. Get your hairy ass into my office now, Roy Kent. Brutal. Everybody's like, holy shit. Right? Rebecca, boss bitch, knows how to lay it down. Very scary, right? And, of course, Roy's speechless. And as he leaves, like, all the players kind of giving him a woo, like somebody's in trouble, right? And then Roy turns around right before, and everybody goes silent, of course, when Roy turns around. And Roy angrily says, every single one of you knows my ass isn't hairy, and none of you spoke up. And I will never forgive you, which is absolutely hilarious. Like, I mean, you know, like Roy, like next level funny in this season. In general, it seems like, especially with the break, that in general the writing for this show has been punched up, which at first, the first few episodes seemed like it was almost punched up a little bit too much. But now that I'm kind of settling in and seeing Roy doing the puns when it comes with, like, you know, becoming one of the coaches, becoming like Beard and Ted. And then that moment, absolutely hilarious. Then Colin sees Trent in his office, goes into his office, and closes the door to chat with him. Ted is on his laptop doing the parent-teacher convo. Colin shuts the door, the sliding door, to get some privacy. And he tells him that Isaac knows, right? And he didn't react good. And now he won't talk to him. Trent tells him to give him some time, even though he shouldn't need to. And reminds Colin that he's known he was gay for 20 years, and Isaac just found out. And Colin corrects him. He's like, saying that as soon as he was out of his mom, he never looked back. Which, also another funny line. Roy goes to see Rebecca, as she demanded, see what the problem is, and find out the problem is him. She sets him straight, tells him like he just walks away from everything that isn't fun or easy. Not only his responsibilities at work, like doing the press conference, but also dealing with a little tension with his relationship with Keely that he ended up ending, which was absolutely ridiculous, which it doesn't seem like this season at all that's where they're going to end up together. But maybe they will. Who knows? There's still a few episodes. It's amazing what they're able to do in an episode. But still, he walks away from everything that's not fun, easy, convenient. And she follows up by telling him that he's complaining about his mediocre place in life. And she's over it. Right? She's over his, oh, woe is me vibe that he's putting out. Right? Oh, things are so horrible, but he does nothing to better his situation. And now at this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe Roy is going to take over as head coach? Like, what is going on? Maybe it's not going to be Nate. Maybe it's Roy that's going to take over, because it's clear that Ted is going to be gone, right? The end of this is Ted moving on to something else. He is barely here at this season. Aside from coming up with Total Football, he is barely here. He is so clearly, every chance Ted gets, he is focused on his son, his ex-wife, and that little moment where they saw each other, where he looked out the window and she looked back after her trip. Like that kind of, I think maybe they're going to get back together. He's going to go back to the U.S., maybe try and work things out. However they end it, I don't think Ted is staying. So maybe Roy takes over, where my initial prediction is that Nate would go back to Richmond as the head coach, which Nate could still go back as the head coach. He could still go back as a coach. It could be Nate and Roy as coaches for Richmond, taking over the spot that was Beard and Ted. I could see Beard staying as well. It would not surprise me at all if Coach Beard stayed. So who knows? This is the first time I've had doubt where like, oh, maybe Roy will be the one taking over. Cut to Rupert popping in on Nate as he's preparing for tomorrow's game. Rupert just grabs a baklava out of Nate's lunch. Like, just grabs it, didn't ask for permission, just, like, clearly doing, like, a dominant, trying to be dominating over Nate, right? Trying to be an alpha male, a.k.a. asshole, right? Just takes the baklava, eats it, calls Jade Kate. Nate tries to correct him. And then he leaves saying nothing, really. Or he leaves saying that there's nothing like the love of a woman, right? And Nate is happy, right? But his look kind of fades when he realizes that, like, what did he just do? Like, he came in here, like, kind of knowing that Rupert is probably up to something, also kind of seeing how, like, you just ate my food, you come in, you're like, don't have the respect to even remember the name, right? So, you know, little notice from Nate when it comes to Rupert. Then West Ham, before the game, right? It's the next day or whatever. Rupert invites Nate to a drink after the game, right? And Nate asks if he should invite Jade. Rupert's like, nah, let's just be the two of us. It'll be a guy's night, right? So, of course, Nate kind of has, Rupert's kind of like a father figure in a lot of ways, which is kind of sad. So he's stoked. He's like, oh, we're going to have a guy's night, me and Rupert. Because, I mean, he does want to bond with Rupert. He wants to have the relationship with Rupert that he had with Ted. Same reason why he tried to form the Love Hounds in replace of the Diamond Dogs. So Nate's stoked. And it's clear that Rupert's going to try and split them up. It's like, it's so clear of what Rupert's intentions are, right? He just wants, because he wants to control Nate. And he knows that this girl is getting his attention, and that's not what Rupert wants. Rupert wants control over everybody. That's his whole deal, is to be in control, to manipulate. Cut to Richmond, about to play as well. So both teams not playing each other, separate games. You see the people at the pub, all the fans at the pub. May serving the fans, the 3 fans that are, big part of this show, serving them beer and a little champagne flutes because she ran out of pint glass. So she's stoked that the pub is full. And as they drink, they're like, "Ooh, it tastes better." Cut to Higgins texting Rebecca, who he's sitting right next to. I mean, Keely's sitting between them, but Rebecca points it out that it's like, "Why did you text me? You're just sitting right here." Keely gets a text from Jack. She finds out Jack is in Argentina for the next couple months. So as far as Keely's concerned, it is over between them, and she lets Higgins and Rebecca, gives them the opportunity to say whatever they want about her, right? Whatever they wanted to say negatively about Jack that they held in and didn't do. And Higgins is pretty quick to mention that her handshake was being a bit firm, right? He's like, good riddance. That was his biggest complaint, that she had a handshake was a little bit too. It's like, okay, let's calm down with the handshakes, right? Which, coming from Higgins, kind of brutal. Because Higgins, I mean, aside from complaining about the handshake, when he went to Rebecca earlier this season and suggested maybe getting rid of Ted Lasso, probably the 2 most brutal things that Higgins has ever uttered in this entire show. Cut to the locker room. Colin trying to give Isaac a fist bump, right? Go get him, captain, right? Pre-game, let's do this. Completely iced. Ted and the coaches come in to do their kind of hands in, count to 3, cheer type of a thing. As they put their hands in, Isaac moves his hand because he doesn't want to touch Colin's hand, right? So this episode's doing a lot to like make you think like maybe it's because Isaac's homophobic. It's still, I mean, I know it happened, but it's like still, that's not what this show is. That's not Ted Lasso. If anything, it's like, oh, it seemed like that, but really he's just upset that Colin wasn't truthful with him. But still, up to this point, still don't know. During the game, Isaac is playing horribly. There's a fan in the stands who's talking shit. Colin also makes a mistake, and Isaac just goes off on Colin. And everybody's confused watching this. They're like, why is, like, this is the amount of shit Isaac is giving Colin is not proportional to the mistake that not only Colin made, but Isaac had just made a mistake as well. So coaches, players, all these people are like, what is going? Like, it's clear that Isaac flying off the handles a little bit. And then halftime, team walking back to the locker room. That same fan is yelling out and calls him a bunch of the F word. Obviously, not fucks. Obviously, the slur that would also be offensive to Colin. And Isaac hears it, takes complete offense, like, you talking to me? And he gets up in the stands, never throws a punch, kind of grabs the fan and yells at him. People kind of separate him, right? But he gets a red card, which apparently means that he's out of the game. And you see Roy trying to calm the situation down, trying to get him down. You see the fan is ejected. You hear the commentators surprised that Roy is the voice of reason in this situation. Cut to the locker room where Ted asks Isaac what happened. And Sam heard what the fan said. And Higgins tells him that the fan was removed, right? And then apologizes for his dad. Obviously, horrible timing for a joke, but also, you know, it's such a bad timing for a joke is on brand with Higgins. So funny, but still not funny. Like, it's actually the kind of jokes that I enjoy saying. Like, when I say a joke that's clearly not the right time or place, not necessarily a joke that's offensive, but like a joke that will elicit a reaction of silence is more of a personal joke for me. That makes me laugh. To throw a joke out that makes everybody like just silent and closed. Like usually dad jokes will kind of elicit that kind of cheesy jokes will elicit that kind of response. I happen to love that. And when Higgins threw out the bad joke, I laughed very hard. I did. I really did enjoy that. So Ted tells Isaac that his reaction was way overboard. Jamie just tells him to ignore it. And Isaac, still furious, says, what if it's one of us is gay, right? We shouldn't have to deal with this shit, right? Just furious. Like, nobody plays angry like Isaac is angry, right? Which I don't know the name of the actor. Great. He knows how to do angry, right? Which Isaac angry a lot of the time. But this, very angry. Very angry. And then Isaac takes his captain armband off and gives it to Sam as he leaves. And then we find out that, Isaac's not homophobic, right? It just seems like he was hurt. Isaac goes into the shoe locker room, the cleats. It's the place where everybody goes to hide out, right? To tell their secrets because it smells in there. Isaac goes in there. Roy volunteers to go in and talk to Isaac. Jamie, sitting across from Sam, who Sam just got the armband for captain. Jamie's eyeballing the armband, is like kind of giving him gestures like, you wanna just pass that armband over to me since I'm Jamie Tart. I'm the best player on this team, right? Sam, I'm the best player. And Sam's like, yeah, well, and gives him the finger instead, which I thought was hilarious. A little back and forth between those two guys, which I quite enjoyed. Cut to Isaac in the locker room crying. And Roy sits down. And he tells Roy that he doesn't want him to start yelling. He doesn't want Roy to start yelling at him. It's like, he can't take that. I don't want that, Roy. And Roy tells him that that's not what he's there to do. Right? He just sits down next to him. So now, cut back to the team in the normal locker room. The team thinks Isaac is gay. And Colin denies knowing anything at first. But he sees how the team is reacting, thinking that Isaac is the one. And everybody is very open to, everybody's statistically, there's probably more of us that are gay than just Isaac if he is gay. And everybody's kind of eyeballing Jamie, and Jamie is kind of notices, and he's like, I'm flattered. I'm very flattered, guys. I'm flattered you would think that. And Sam tells the team that they need to support Isaac, right? And you see a close-up of Colin's face as everybody's assuming, seeing how everybody's supportive and positive, as you would expect from Ted Lasso, the show. Everybody being supportive, everybody being positive. This is the show that does not dip into the negativity that is so prevalent in society nowadays, right? There's little morsels of it, right? You get the fascist, racist on Twitter from the previous episode, inspiring bigots to trash Sam's restaurant, right? Just a little dash of that. But even in that episode, positivity, happiness, team comes together. This one too. Team, very supportive. And just as Ted is about to start talking about the second half, right, get back into the game, Colin steps in. It's like, wait a minute. And then we cut back to Isaac. Or Colin stands up, tells him everything, and he says Isaac isn't gay, right? Cut to Roy in the locker room with Isaac. And he knows Isaac is really mad about something, but it's not what the fan said. That's not what he's actually really mad about. He knows it's something more that's at the heart of that anger. And Roy tells him to deal with that real cause, or else it's going to eat away at you. It's just going to make things worse. Cut to the running gag of Will being in that shoe locker room, nobody noticing. And he agrees as well with Roy's. And then, as always, suggests, oh, you guys want some gum or you want to go, whatever. And, they're like, no, be quiet. Don't say anything. But he agrees with Roy's advice. Cut back to the team. where we never actually hear Colin say the words. But he asks if they're all cool with it. And of course they are. And they say they don't care, but then Ted steps in and he has a story about how his friend was a big Denver Broncos fan and Ted, not a fan of the Broncos at all, just said he didn't care. It's like, I don't care. You're my friend. I don't care if you're rooting for the Denver Broncos. And how, like, for 2 years, his friend had to watch the Broncos in the Super Bowl all by himself. Talking about how he ate this massive 7-layer dip all by himself and how it caused massive amounts of damage to the restroom, right? Just an insane number, like price point to fix the restroom after the devastation of this guy, his friend, who destroyed it because nobody watched the Super Bowl with him because he was alone. He's the only one, and he doesn't care, but there was nobody there. Right? And Ted said, I should have cared. I should have watched those Super Bowls with him. I should have helped him eat that 7-layer dip. I should have supported him. Right? And that's what Ted's like. We do care. We're going to be here because I can't imagine what it's been like for you to keep this secret for so long. Right? So it's not that we do care. And we care in a positive way, obviously. And then Colin points out, asking Ted if he just compared being gay to being a Denver Broncos fan, which I thought was hilarious considering I used to live in Denver. I also used to live in San Diego, which is a rival, at least when the Chargers were in San Diego, for like the 2 years where I was trying to be thought I was going to be a NFL fan. It's like, I live in San Diego. I'm going to be a fan of the Chargers. And the Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, like, there are people that are in our division that was like, oh, those are our rivals, rah, rah, rah. At least I think they are. But so I thought it was kind of fun because I never became a Broncos fan, even though I lived in Denver for a couple years. But still funny. Colin pointed that out. Jamie doesn't even know who the Denver Broncos are. Obviously, American football. Nobody gives a shit. I mean, not surprising that anybody would give a shit. And Ted says they can't imagine what he went through, what Colin went through, and that he doesn't have to do it anymore. So, of course, the show handles this situation in the best way imaginable. Because this is Ted. Like, this is why when it came up, it's like, well, it could go with this situation causing drama in the locker room, but that's not generally what this show does. The show goes the other way. And instead of showing drama, it shows massive positivity and support. And that's what we're seeing. And Ted gets them back on track with the game. Sam completely forgot that he was captain as they all go put their hands in to count down to go back out. And Sam just starts saying that, that he loves them all so very much. And Tart, taking the opportunity after Sam said that, says, on 3. So everybody's all 1, 2, 3. I love you all so very much, right? Which is perfect for this show. It is so, like, of course, we're gonna not only have this situation of a teammate coming out be the most positive way this could possibly go, the best case scenario, but also we're going to end that moment with a cheer of 1, 2, 3, I love you all very much, in only the Ted Lasso fashion that could ever happen. No other show could pull that off, but Ted Lasso can pull that off, in my opinion. As they're walking out, Trent goes to ask Colin how he thought it all went. And Colin's like, it went the second best way it possibly could. The best way would have been if the entire team was gay, they all came out, and they were all photographed to be on Oprah Winfrey's magazine. Right? Trent loves it. Right? And Trent loves it, I'm sure, for the other reason of it being another good story to add to his book about this amazing season, what Ted is doing. Let's take a quick break right now to talk about, are you a fan of original artwork and live events? Look no further than the Many Faces series by Ray Taylor and the weekly live stream over at youtube.com/inspireddisorder. This ongoing series explores the endless possibilities of the human face through abstract ink paintings on paper, capturing unique expressions of emotion, mood, tone, and energy in just a few minimal features. Join me every Thursday at 4:20 Pacific Time as I paint live. Follow the Many Faces series and discover the endless possibilities of the human face. Don't miss out on this opportunity to be part of the action and own a piece of original artwork by me, Ray Taylor. Head to youtube.com/inspireddisorder every Thursday to catch the live stream, and visit inspireddisorder.com to browse and purchase the Many Faces artwork. And now, let's get back to the show. Cut to Nate reading an article about Isaac and his situation with the fan. And he gets a text from Jade saying, "Hi, I saw you guys won." And in this moment, I'm hoping Nate doesn't fuck this up, right? I hope he doesn't fuck this up with Jade trying to impress Rupert. So he gets the text from her. She tells him to have fun with the guys' night. She knows, right? She's supportive, as not surprising. Then Roger comes in, the Higgins type guy that Nate tried to bring into the Love Hounds. And Roger asks Nate if he wants to go out for a pint, you know. But, of course, Nate's like, oh, I'm actually going to have drinks with Rupert. And, of course, Roger immediately thinks, you're in trouble. What happened? But, of course, no, it's guys' night out. Cut to Colin celebrating on field at the end of the game. They won 2-1. Richmond won the game. Right? They were down 1 at halftime. They came back, scored 2 goals. And apparently Colin was the man of the match. He played an all-star game. And you hear the pundits all talking shit about Isaac. Cut to Nathan showing up to that bar, the Bones and Broth or whatever, that Bones and Honey. And, of course, Rupert is there with 2 models again, because that is what, of course, not surprising at all. But this is that moment where it's like, oh, let's see what Nate does, right? And Nate's like, I thought this was going to be a guy's night, right? Of course. And you see Nate kind of contemplate the situation. And in this moment, I'm yelling at the TV for him to leave. I'm like, get out of there. Like, I don't, like, this is the thing with the show is, like, it's not stressful. It's a happy show. And when there's moments where stress can be in, like if Rupert succeeds, if Nate stays, and there's going to be an article, like Rupert has this plan. He wants to break him up with Jade. And he's going to do it by pairing him up with a model, getting it out in the papers, and then she'll see it and blah, yada, yada, yada. But that's not what happens because we are watching Ted Lasso. And instead, Nate tells Rupert that he needs to leave, makes up an excuse. He's like, I actually had something to do. I just wanted to tell you in person, right? So kind of made an excuse. Rupert doesn't say anything, just walks away. So obviously, knowing Rupert, he's probably not even going to be able to address him as Rupert anymore, as before, when he saw that he drove a Mini. Probably not going to have a job anymore. That's probably the moment where Rupert's like, okay, you are replaceable, buddy. You're not going to do what I say. I'm the boss. You don't listen to me. I am the puppet master. You are the puppet. And you're not going to do this? Okay, I see where it is. But I'm celebrating Nate because I have a feeling I know where this show is going. I have a feeling I know where Nate's character is going. So I'm happy that Nate didn't mess this up. But Nate did realize, I think in that moment, Nate does realize that he probably just lost his job in that moment. Cut back to Richmond and the Diamond Dog crew. They aren't officially call a meeting of the Diamond Dog, but all those guys are there. And they're all celebrating with champagne or whatever. They're on an 8-game win streak. Roy thinks mentioning a streak is bad luck. Higgin tells Ted that the press is ready for him. Downstairs or wherever it is, the press is ready for him. And Roy, again, volunteering, not only to speak to Isaac, but now volunteering to go take Ted's spot and talk to the press to kind of make good on leaving Rebecca high and dry previously. Everyone is shocked that Roy decided to do this, by the way. So he gets there. The first question, when he walks in, they're surprised to see him. First question is, do you or your organization condone what Isaac did? And Roy's first response is, what a stupid fucking question, right? Of course we don't. And Rebecca, very nervous, is like, what did I do? This is not, like, my pep talk is backfiring miserably. And then he gets a follow-up question asking what he thinks Isaac did. Do you know what Isaac did or why Isaac did what he did? And Roy takes a beat, sits back in his chair, and he goes into a story, which is another thing that Ted Lasso would do, right? He'd tell him a story. Obviously, Ted Lasso is going to tell a very Ted Lasso story. Roy, on the other hand, tells about this time, about him making a joke about one of his teammates. His wife is pregnant, and Roy makes a joke that it's probably likely that it's his kid, right? Just who Roy was at the time, how he slept with so many women, whatever, made a joke. And the dude beat him up bad. Broke his ribs, all this stuff. And that player ruined his career from doing that. Never played again. Later, Roy saw that same player, went up to apologize to him for making that bad joke. And that's when Roy found out that the dude and his wife had actually lost their baby a month before that happened. A month before Roy made that joke. And he just never told the team. Right? Great story. And the point, you never know what somebody is going through. Obviously, great point as well. And he follows it up by saying, fans think because they buy a ticket, they can say whatever abusive things they want to say from the stands, right? Just because they bought a ticket. But these people aren't just footballers, they're people, right? And none of us knows what's going on in each other's lives. And you see cuts of all the different reporters in there. And he said, despite what Isaac did, Roy still has love for him, right? But as far as why he did what he did, it's none of my fucking business. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. Told it in a great story, meaningful story from his own personal career, his own personal mistakes. Brilliant. And Rebecca, looking on this situation, seeing how it started, nervous, turned it around. She's very happy, very proud of Roy, how he handled that moment. And then the new Trent from The Independent, I think. New Trent brings up Colin, and Roy thinks that he's great and he's been underused. And Roy says that he prefers new Trent to old Trent. They all laugh. And Roy kind of gives Rebecca a look like, you're right. Here I am. I'm doing this thing. And he handled it brilliantly. Cut to now Nate showing up at Jade's apartment. She opens the door, asks what happened to guys' night, and Nate just gives her a big hug. Right? And he has to know that his job is gone. Has to know that his job is gone. Right? Just gives her a hug. Just happy that she's like, that's like he did the right thing. Clearly most likely gave up his career working at West Ham because his relationship with Jade is more important than Rupert's bullshit. Cut to Isaac showing up at Colin's house. Isaac was angry that Colin lied to him, which is what my feeling was the whole time. And Colin says that he was 99% sure that Isaac would support him, but that 1% scared the shit out of him. Also, he knows Isaac can't keep a secret for shit, right? Isaac found out a week ago, and, everybody already knows, right? And Isaac tells him that no one will ever say shit to him, that he's got his back. Colin invites him in. Cut to both of them playing FIFA, right? Background. And Isaac asking him all the questions about lifestyle, right? Is the top versus bottom, is that a sexual position or a sleeping arrangement? He's like, well, it depends on if there's, bunk beds involved, or only if bunk beds are involved in a sleeping situation. Like, could you have sex with a woman if you had to? And it's like, who would it be if you had to? And Isaac liked his one answer. Then he asks Colin who the fittest guy is in the team, right? And he's like, you wouldn't be able to guess, and you would be surprised to know. And, of course, he immediately guessed. It's a very sweet moment of them bonding, playing FIFA. Great moment. The part where I cry, Roy, a lot of Roy's lines. The part where I got choked up was not only when the team was overly supportive of Colin, like just how that whole situation went super positive, got me choked up, but then also knowing that Nate made the right decision, right? This episode, tons of laughs, got me choked up multiple times, right? I'm so happy how things finally came to a conclusion with Colin, including Isaac. Of course, the most supportive way and loving way possible. And also seeing Colin step up after the weight of having to keep that secret for his entire life. Finally, his team knows. He goes out on the field and has an all-star game, right? So I'm happy about Colin finally kind of coming into his own. And Roy noticed it, mentioned it at the press conference. You have Roy stepping up, taking more responsibility after Rebecca's kicking him in the ass, setting him straight, challenging himself. Not only talking to Isaac about that incident, giving him good advice. Also, the press conference, telling his story to answer that question. The relationship between Keely and Jack officially done. Nate, maybe done with West Ham. It's not official. Would not be surprised if next episode starts with Nate in sweats at home, frustrated that, I lost my job, depressed. Jade's like, well, why don't you talk to this guy that cheered you on at your game, right? The guy you used to play for. Would not be surprised if the next episode is her convincing Nate to go talk to Ted, right? But he did the right thing. It's not exactly how I thought it would happen. I definitely felt like Jade would be the reason. I thought it would be over more of a battle over evil versus good Nate versus just good Nate is pretty much just there, and evil Nate really doesn't exist much anymore, and he just made the right decision. At no point aside from during the game, that's the only time he's evil Nate, and everything else, even in interacting with Rupert, he's nice Nate. He was, very much submissive, goofy, awkward Nate. So either way, wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. And I still feel like Nate might end up at Richmond. Wouldn't be surprised if Roy took over either. Or maybe, I could see the show being spun off without Ted, right? Can't call the show Ted Lasso. They said it's done after 3 seasons. If Ted leaves, it would make complete sense if they spun this off into a show, call it Richmond, call it Greyhounds, call it whatever, and you have Roy and Nate as the coaches. I could easily see that. And even Beard staying there, right? And, of course, Ted having moments in the show, coming to visit. Who knows? They could write him in doing other things, but change it, spin-off show. Like Frasier was to Cheers, they could do for this show. Keep the entire cast except for Ted. Change the name. I can see that happening. That is my prediction possibility. I don't know how predictive. I have my solid prediction of how this is going to end with Henry's his Lego prophecy, but wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do. Because it's a popular show and they've stuck to their guns with it being 3 seasons, I could see them being like, well, how we're ending this, we could spin this off, right? Obviously, writer strike. Who knows what will happen? Next episode 10 of season 3, is international break. So maybe they're going to go play an international game. While some of the Greyhounds head home to play for their countries, they're all going back home to play for their international matches. Edwin Akufo brings a business proposal to Rebecca. I think that was the guy who was trying to get Sam. Maybe he's gonna buy Richmond. Ooh. Only 3 more episodes left, though. So we'll see if my predictions of Henry's Lego prophecy coming to fruition in 3 more weeks. But either way, that is a wrap on another incredible episode of the Ted Lasso Recap Podcast. Y'all have been tuning in. I couldn't be more grateful. If you're loving what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you're loving what I'm doing, I want to make sure I'm hitting the mark every time, hitting the bullseye specifically every time I step up to this mic here in my hand. Now, I know you all have opinions and I want to hear them. So reach out on social media at Ray Taylor Show, IG, TikTok, Twitter, all of it. Let me know what you're thinking. I promise to read every message with the same enthusiasm as Ted coaching his team to victory. And finally, I can't wait to get back with y'all next week for another deep dive into the world of Ted Lasso. So until then, stay curious, stay kind, and stay gold, folks.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.